investment firm to use the internet. Prior to Atlantic Financial, he was with Morgan Stanley. He's also a founding member of the Bitcoin Association, so he's been doing this stuff for a while. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Thanks, everybody. So I'll talk about a couple things. I'll talk about this, the title of the talk is the race for Bitcoin in the emerging markets and developing markets. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Before that, I want to give a couple just quick examples, really, really simple examples. You're going to hear, and you've already heard from some of the real cutting edge parts of this technology. So I chose two of the most basic and simple examples that I can think of to illustrate why this technology is so amazing. One of them is a simple test that I did. I'd encourage anybody to do it, particularly if you have a large social media following. I have a decent number of people on my Facebook, and so I said, I made a post, I said, whoever has never owned Bitcoin, go sign up for a wallet, here's how to do it. I think I recommended blockchain, and give me your address, and I'll send you Bitcoin. And it took a little while for the responses to come in, but in 15 minutes of my time, I was able to send $1 to 85 people around the world. And that could have just as easily been $10,000 each, mechanically. I didn't need to know their name, they didn't need to go through an AML check with me. I sent money to Nigeria, to Alaska, to all over the world. 15 minutes of time. It's a super simple example that anybody can do, but it illustrates the power of Bitcoin being something that you simply could not do before. It is a superior invention, it is superior technology that does things that can't be done. The other example that I'll use is right here. I'll call it the ultimate traveler's check. Remember traveler's checks? We had the American Express traveler's checks, don't leave home without them, because not that long ago, many of us are old enough to remember when you travel to other places, currency exchange was a lot harder. Visa and MasterCard were not accepted in different jurisdictions. It was, and most places like restaurants, movie theaters, things like that wouldn't accept credit cards anyway. There wasn't really a mechanism to use ATM cards. You'll remember the initial ATM cards had to be linked exactly to a specific bank. They weren't networked, and you had to have an account with that bank and get money, and forget about it overseas. If you were coming from the United States to the UK or something like that, it just wasn't possible. You would have to, at best, you could maybe bring in a credit card into a bank and get an advance with your passport. So now we have ATMs and things like that, and they generally work. But this, I call it the ultimate traveler's check. So what I've done in here, I have this little wallet, and I've taken Bitcoin paper wallets. How many people use Bitcoin paper wallets for some sort of storage or something like that? Okay, so not as many as I thought, actually. I'm sure you have an idea of the concept. Basically, you can print your public key and your private key onto a piece of paper, and then it's protected from hacking. If somebody hacks into your system, they can't get this piece of paper. There's one step, there's a couple steps better that you can do. You can do what's called multi-signature, where multiple people need to be to sign to have that private key revealed. The other thing you can do is called BIP38, which is basically just a password protection. So I've taken and made a handful of these paper wallets, and you could put about $50,000 or so, or however much you want, into a simple wallet like this. And I write the number on the back of how many Bitcoin are in here. This one has 1. There's a couple with 10 or 20. Some with less, some with more. This one has 5. And I have the public key here, so I could verify it, or somebody else could verify it. If I rip it open, then I'll have the private key, and I have the password. So you could have $1,000, $10,000, $50,000 in a little wallet like this. What happens if I lose it? I lose nothing, because for one thing, they're password protected. I did a test online. I made a password 1234, and I put it out to the community. It took about 33 minutes for somebody to crack it, and I gave a couple of clues. I said it's super easy and so on. So even, my password is not 1234, but even with a simple password, it's very unlikely a thief is going to steal this and then crack the password. And with even a reasonable password with a couple exclamation marks or uppercase, lowercase, to brute force the attack would be a week, even for a pretty simple password. So basically, there's nothing anybody could do, even in this room where there's tech geniuses who would be capable, if anybody could, of breaking the password. There's nothing anybody could do with this unless they dedicated a week or two of their time to, and they'd still have to do it for each wallet. So if I lose this, I don't lose anything, because I have the capability of making a copy of this piece of paper and keeping it in a safety deposit box, in a safe in my home, in a bank safe deposit box, in a foreign jurisdiction, particularly if it was a lot of money. You could have it in multiple places. I could have it with somebody I trust, and I could even go one step further and have the password in a different place. So I could have one friend I trust say, hey, here's a password. I don't even need to tell them what it's for. Here's a list of 5 passwords. And then I could give somebody else a copy of the wallets. So just with really, really simple, this is not an advanced programming feat. I'm literally talking about pieces of paper. But with something, and that's why I chose this as an example, because it's something so simple, yet so unbelievable. It's never been done in history. When else in history have you been able to carry around essentially an unlimited amount of money without any worry that it would be stolen? If somebody stole this, I could call somebody who has a copy of this, who I trust, and say, here's what the password is, or somebody who knows the password, or whatever your method is, business partner, whatever, and they can take the copies of these, and long before the thief could ever crack my password, they could load them onto another wallet and be totally secure. If somebody is in a jurisdiction with a corrupt government and they have it in a government, a bank that is under government oversight, and the government drills the box, there's nothing they can get, because this is useless to anybody without the password. So that's an incredible, it's very, very simple, but incredible fundamental illustration of what Bitcoin can do. It can do things that have never been done before. You have the ability to have your money nowhere and everywhere at the same time. So that's incredible. And it's these kind of things that is, the longer I'm in this community and the longer I think about it, the more exciting it is, because it's hard to wrap your head around just how the world changes. How does the world change when it doesn't matter if somebody steals your wallet? And I say wallet because not just your cash or your credit cards, but clearly, as the last presentation and other ones show, everything is going to become decentralized. So your driver's license, other things like that, the technology's here now. It's just a matter of somebody implementing it to be able to have something like this where you could have, and I'm sure somebody far smarter than me will make a technological solution to this much better than printing out little pieces of paper. It's only a matter of time before your wallet will have maybe one piece of paper which has the equivalent of all your credit cards, all your bank accounts, all your Bitcoin and everything, and your passport, all on one piece. Only you know the password. You can decrypt it, at will or share it or whatever. It's really incredible to think about the kind of things that will happen as a result of this technology. And that's one thing that I think is a key moment for a lot of people in this space. First, a lot of people jump in because of speculation or thinking Bitcoin's going to go up or it's an interesting transfer mechanism, and then you sort of digest, wow, this is a new invention that can do things that have never been done before. And then the next step beyond that, like I said, I purposely chose the most simple example I could. There are things much more advanced like Ethereum, where they're building on blockchain-like technology to make things decentralized. It's really incredible. So we're this race that's never happened before. The closest thing is probably the internet, but we're in a very different world than we were 20 years ago. When I started Atlantic Financial, we were the first full-service investment firm on the internet. The world is very different now. One thing is mobile phone penetration and internet penetration. As a friend of mine says, Bitcoin has something the internet didn't. It has the internet. So we have this incredible ability to share ideas and share knowledge and have things move at a much more rapid pace. And we've already seen that with other technology that has been adopted, things like Facebook and other things which moved at a much more rapid curve than the internet itself did. And going back before that with mobile phones and going back to cars and other inventions, they were slower curves. The more technology enables things to have information be shared, the faster it works. So this has never happened before. It's going to move faster than anything has moved before. This invention of this blockchain type of technology, this decentralized technology, is definitely here to stay, no matter what happens to Bitcoin. I'm bullish on Bitcoin. I believe Bitcoin will do well. Whether I'm right or wrong doesn't matter as much to the overall technology, because that idea is here to stay. It is a superior idea that enables people to do things that could not be done before. And like the internet, it's kind of a handful of inventions that makes one big invention, but changes everything. That's the way this blockchain protocol, Bitcoin, is. It changes everything that it touches. Anything you can think of, any kind of industry will be affected by this. So, the emerging world, this is one example of how this is different from previous times where technology has gone through adoption curves. You have 650 million mobile phones in Africa. So there's more mobile phones than there are people in the UK and the United States combined. You have internet usage. You have the ability where, like the internet, any entrepreneur in Africa or Asia or North America or Europe, wherever, can go and decide to start a Bitcoin business. You can just do it. They don't need permission. There's no central authority. And that enables things to... I'm always so excited when I'm kind of... Some people don't like the term community. I'm sort of really into... If there is a community, I'm in it full force. I know a lot of people. I have a lot of great friends. I've been really fortunate to make a lot of new friends. Some of my best friends I've ever had in my life I've made in the last year and a half or so by being in this, so-called community. I'm always really excited when there's people that nobody ever heard of in the community who just do something. I mean, they don't need to be on Reddit or attend the same conferences or meet the same people. There's people who've just spontaneously done something on their own. They went on, did their own research, did their own thing. And I'm always really excited when you come to a conference like this or you read about something where somebody that nobody's ever heard of has just done it. And that's something that this technology enables, because it's not centralized. Anybody can do it, and it's happening all over the world. So you have companies like, in Africa, you have Kipochi, which is a wallet which links with M-Pesa, which has something like 8 million users. It's a digital money service, and enables that platform to basically have Bitcoin. There's also BitPesa, which is launched as a pure Bitcoin alternative to M-Pesa. So these things I could go on and on and on. There's so many of these examples that are happening, and you have ecosystems cropping up around the world. In the last panel, one of the panelists mentioned Jersey, and kind of trying to create an ecosystem where the more people that accept Bitcoin, the more it happens. You may be aware of what has happened in my home, at least part of the year. I travel about half the year, but when I am home, I'm in Boston, and there we have MIT, one of the better engineering schools in the world, has announced that they're giving every single undergrad $100 worth of Bitcoin. So immediately, the ecosystem changed. Everything around MIT started accepting Bitcoin. A lot of the merchants right on those streets started accepting Bitcoin, and the MIT bookstore started accepting it, and so on. So these things are cropping up, and it's going to continue to happen. It's very exciting. We have not just Africa, but the races between the UK, who has done some exciting things in the last couple of weeks, and as far as coming out ahead on a legal and regulatory front. We have the United States, which has, I think, incredible potential. I've been saying ever since I've been in this space that when mainstream Wall Street has the ability to easily buy Bitcoin, and that will happen through the Bitcoin Investment Trust and Winklevoss ETF, I think that's a big deal. Because if you're a family office, or especially an endowment, or especially a pension or something like that, you're just not going to buy Bitcoin under the channels that we buy now. They want to buy in a format that they're familiar with a simple listing that they can call their Charles Schwab or Merrill Lynch broker and buy or sell their Microsoft or Apple stock and buy Bitcoin-backed investment. So that's happening, and that is imminent. It's a matter of months before that will occur, and that will cause, I think, a big amount of inflows into the space. And you have exciting things happening in Asia and Latin America and all over the world. So I'll leave plenty of time for questions here and just kind of close by saying the other thing to consider is the regulatory environment. I talk about this a lot more in the US, where we have this interesting situation where some states are very positive and some states are negative. There's New York, particularly, as you may be aware, has been basically pretty much a ban on their current proposal is essentially, they call it a regulation, and they did a media show to make it appear that they were working with the community and having a reasonable regulatory framework, but it really amounts to a ban, basically, all the way to the other extreme where some state regulators have pretty much announced a hands-off policy. And the interesting thing is the real battle isn't between the states. The real battle is between nations, and more importantly than that, the innovation that people have. All you need is one jurisdiction in the entire world to accept Bitcoin, and that's certain to be the case because there's already jurisdictions who have become very, very favorable. All you need is one in the world. And if it is legal for an individual or business to open an account there, how do you differentiate when I have my phone? How does somebody differentiate whether that account is with ABC Corporation of Jersey or Isle of Man or Ras Al Khaimah or Singapore versus if that is my own Bruce Fenton wallet? It's something that the regulators just simply aren't going to be able to have any chance of regulating. I don't say that because I'm anti-regulation, which I am. I'm just saying that because it's reality. They just simply will not be able to do it. And when you're paying people with Bitcoin, there's no way for them to verify. I just paid a contractor in Dubai, and he gave me his Bitcoin address. There's no way, he doesn't pay taxes because he's an Emirati, so he's not going to declare it because he's not required to by his government. So how does anyone know what wallet that is, who it belongs to? These kind of things are simply impossible for regulators to get their head around. And you now have a real ability. There are some large players in this space who have kind of virtual corporations and corporations which have multiple jurisdictions or very soft jurisdiction or no jurisdiction. There's nothing that they can do to stop somebody in a garage at MIT or in Africa or here in London from setting up their own business and putting it out there and accepting and trading in Bitcoin. So the reality of it will make them have to readjust, and they'll have to start dealing with people on a much more of a good faith method rather than right now, which is kind of an all-force method where New York basically says, do what we say. If you don't, even you in London, even if you're a business owner in London, they're saying, do what we say. In New York, a country that you're not a citizen of, you may have never even been to, do what we say, or if next time you come anywhere in the United States, we'll use the long arm of the United States law to reach out and imprison you and have people with guns point them at you. So that mechanism of dealing in force and violence isn't going to work. They're going to have to downplay just because of the reality that they won't be able to keep up with the pace of this technology. So who will win this race? I think it will be whatever countries are out in front in being accepting of this new technology and understanding it and having a friendly environment to let the many, many exciting entrepreneurs and people with all of these great ideas go out and do what they do best, which is come up with new ideas that sometimes succeed, sometimes fail, but often change the world and create new jobs and make our world a better place. So thank you very much.
Great speech. Simon Dixon from Back to the Future again. The one tool that seems to be used in order to hold it back, including the jurisdictions which are looking to support Bitcoin and blockchains, is access to banking for businesses. So it's almost like we need to be able to completely play in the Bitcoin environment and not intersect with banking, or we need to crowdfund a new bank or something owned by the community. Because the jerseys and everything, I still believe, if I'm not right, that they haven't solved that problem. How are we going to get banks that have no interest and no desire and nothing but risk and nothing in it for them to support a Bitcoin, to give access to banking for Bitcoin businesses? How's that going to happen? How do you think it's going to play out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple things to think about. Fortunately, this problem won't be a problem for long. It's right now while we're trying to get on the on-ramp of changing the world and having this new thing. You need to have a mechanism of getting cash and fiat into Bitcoin, and the way to do that is through services like Coinbase or Bitstamp or whatever, where they need a banking relationship, and usually you need a banking relationship also. The kind of local Bitcoins type of thing isn't as scalable, and particularly when we're talking about things like Wall Street type of money, and the kind of money that is here in London, billions of dollars. You really, for now, unfortunately, do need those old legacy banking systems. So how will we get them to change? Everything you said is a great idea. Crowdfunding and creating a new bank is a great idea. It's not a simple undertaking. I came from 22 years in the investment business, not as a bank, and I know from that how incredibly hard it is to become a bank. But the world is changing. There's a lot more capital into this space. There are bigger and bigger rounds of funding. It is not out of the realm of possibility that a big venture firm or even people in this community who've done well could buy, especially a small bank. The other thing is, the banks are, when you mentioned risk, that risk is driven by government. So if you have a jurisdiction which is favorable, if the bank executives know that they're not going to go to jail or even lose their job because they did something with Bitcoin, that helps a lot. And
Do you think it's just regs or vested interest?
What's that?
Do you think it's just regulations or vested interest as well?
Oh, so the question is, are they doing it because they're afraid of Bitcoin taking over?
There's got to be an element of that.
Yeah. I don't think as much. I don't think they've thought it through. Now, they probably should, just like governments. I've said before, if the governments really, really understood this, a lot of us in the community play the role of kind of downplaying it, like, oh yeah, you'll be able to track criminals by just using blockchain evidence and all that. It's really not the case. I mean, this is in some ways a Trojan horse that will destroy governments as we know it and destroy banks as we know it. So they should pay attention. I don't think that's so much their motivation now. I don't think that I don't want to say they're not smart enough, but I don't think they've spent enough time on it to really digest that so far. I think it is mostly regulatory driven. And also if you think about the structure of a bank, who would be making that decision? Who would really care? The only people who really care about a disruptive technology are board member, top C-level executives, and they would look at it as how can we use this as an opportunity and integrate it. So jurisdictions is another thing, and also as you see bigger companies like Dell and others come into this space, that changes the motivation as well. The people who want to work with them.